Hello, this is Alex, the Sober Dad. Welcome to another episode of the Sobriety Journal. Thanks for watching. Today, we're talking about a really important topic, and it comes from a question that I hear a lot from clients and people that I met in the recovery community, which is, can I learn to drink less? Can I still enjoy a drink here or two here and there, but learn to not overdrink so I don't get into so much trouble? All right, so I think that is very common, and I can relate to that because I went through a period of time where I felt like not drinking ever sounded way too scary and too drastic. I felt like I still wanted to be able to drink, but in a controlled fashion. Can I learn to control my drinking? That was the question. So in order to address this question, you have to look at your own particular situation, right? Because everybody's different. And this question can only be answered by you, okay? So the idea here being that you're getting into a lot of trouble when you drink. When you go out and drink, you tend to overdo it. And then there's negative consequences associated with your drinking. And you're trying to learn to not drink so much so you don't have all of these negative consequences. So one way to go about it is by looking at your actions and say, all right, if I could only drink one or two, wouldn't I already be doing it? I mean, that is, if one or two drinks was just enough for you, wouldn't that be exactly what you would be doing? And you wouldn't be watching this video. The truth of the matter is that one or two drinks was never enough for me. Even if I went out and I told myself, you know what, I'm just gonna have one, I always ended up over drinking, okay? So it was not possible for me to just have one drink. It is possible for a lot of people. I know a lot of people who go out and have drinks and enjoy themselves and they don't seem to get into any trouble. But for me, it was not possible because I would always end up wanting more than one. You know, one was not enough, or two or three or four. So for me, one was never enough. So you have to look at your own situation and figure out what is going on when you go out and you end up drinking too much. What are the reasons why you end up drinking too much? And even despite your best effort, why is it that you cannot just stay with one or two? So I'll give you a little bit of insight, because drinking in excess has nothing to do with willpower, okay? Because if it was just willpower, then it would be really easy to just stop drinking. See, what happens is you have the choice to not drink all the way up to the point when you put the drink in your mouth, okay? Because until that moment, you can still override whatever craving and urge is making you want to drink. Once you put the drink inside of you, something else takes over, and not just figuratively. There is a more primitive part of your brain, the amygdala. Some people call it the reptilian brain or the chimp brain, takes over, and that's the part of the brain that deals with fear and pleasure and fight or flight. So once you start drinking, you start tapping into this part of the brain, and this part of the brain is gonna demand alcohol. It's gonna make you wanna drink more and more and more. And once that happens, then all bets are off. There's nothing else you can do at that point because something else has taken over. So when you look back after a binging episode or after a long night of drinking and you say, why did I do that? Well, as I said, the more primitive part of your brain took over and took off after you started drinking. So the safest bet, if that is what's happening to you, is to not put any drink at all inside of you. And you might say, oh, but everybody's drinking, and that seems really a hard thing to do and so drastic, you know? And I get it. If you've been drinking for a very long time, that definitely sounds like a very difficult thing to do, and it is. But if you are trying to stop all this trouble and all of this chaos that ensues when you drink in excess, understand that the safest bet is to not bet at all, right? So I can tell you from my personal experience, I tried to manage my drinking and just have a few for over 20 years. And I tried and I tried, and I thought it would be a good idea to be able to have a few. And sometimes I was able to drink a few drinks and nothing terrible happened. But over time, invariably, I would always find myself starting to drink again in excess. So despite my best intentions, despite my best efforts, I always ended up drinking again. So that's just me, right? And you have to look at your own situation. So if you are trying to figure out what to do, I have a suggestion. Consider this. How about giving yourself a period when you decide that you're going to not drink for some significant amount of time, say 3 months, 6 months, maybe up to a year. If that sounds like too scary, try 6 months. And you're just gonna give it a shot. You're gonna try to figure out how things are in your life. You're gonna try to experience how living without drinking is for you, and what are the changes, what are the things that you like and don't like about not drinking. And then you can make an educated decision, because a lot of times all of these fears that we have about, wow, it's going to be really difficult to drink without alcohol, are just fears that are not really true. So why don't you give yourself a shot and try not drinking for some period of time. And if after 6 months you decide that life is so much better when you drink, then by all means just go ahead and drink. Nobody's gonna force you. You know, this is a free country still. You can drink all the alcohol that you want. So why don't you give it a shot? Give it a try. And if after that period of time you decide that your life is better off when you drink, then you can always go back to it. How does that sound? All right, well, I hope this helps. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about relapses, check out this video I made right here, which covers just exactly that topic. And this is Alex Rivera, the Sober Dad. Thanks for joining me today in this Sobriety Journal, and I will see you soon.